You're listening to Women's Dream Enlightenment. Dream decoding, deep discussions, and spiritual stories of self-discovery to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, founder of Women's Dream Analysis. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today we have Cathleen Beerkins. She holds a BS in Health Education and a BSN. She is the founder of A Wellness Revolution, an institute for integrative nutrition based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, and is author of Your Creator Matrix: How to Use Optimal Wellness and Quantum Healing to Master Your Story and Create Your Reality. Today, we're going to talk about quantum physics and what it means to be a creator and how our consciousness is the key to growth. Welcome, Cathleen.
Thank you, Megan. So nice that you have me. I'm so
Yes.
grateful. I love this. This is special. And I've seen your work, and thank you for the work you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, yes, it's lovely to have you here, and I can't wait to dive right into our conversation. So the first question I'm going to ask is the one I ask everybody, and that is, what does enlightenment mean to you?
Yeah, that's so funny that you asked that. I have had like arguments with people about this because the old way of thinking of enlightenment was not at all on the spiritual level. It was like the age of enlightenment, it was a time of history. So I just think that's interesting. But enlightenment means something very different to me. It's the process we're on right now on the planet to evolve rather quickly. It's a process of actually becoming lighter on all levels. Light is information. And when you're in the light, I always say to my students, when I would turn a light on, you would see everything, and seeing and becoming aware of everything is consciousness. So as we're in this really big leap and jump in consciousness, a very special time, we are becoming more enlightened, which is at the physical level too, that our cells are becoming lighter. But it's on all levels, body, mind, spirit, and all levels are affected by this process. And so, yeah, we're getting smarter, and we're seeing more, and we're understanding more who we are.
I really like that. Getting lighter and being enlightened. Yes. All good things.
Yeah.
So I love your journey that you have the healthcare background, but that you've really embraced the quantum part of healing. So let's share with the audience that journey that you went on and how you arrived working in this space now, starting out in health education.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like we all have our journey, and I think our journeys serve us. But mine started very young. I just felt like a calling to be in medicine. In my family, doctor, nurse, that was the option. And there was nothing else. We didn't have any nothing holistic. So that's your product of your environment. And I had a grandfather that was a doctor, uncles that were a doctor. My father was a PhD. That's what I grew up with. So, and my mother was a teacher at a high level. So I was just called to do that. And I felt it in me. I really was drawn to the hospital. But when I got there and I worked 12 years, really I can tell you, I saw a lot of suffering and the most incredible illness and disease. And what is it? I mean, I was really like faced with it. And the first floor I was on was a floor where people would lose part of their face and their ability to talk and speak. And they were young, all ages. And I was in shock because I was young. And I think when you're 26, 27, you think, oh, this will last forever, or you're invincible. And it was like a rude awakening to, you are not your body. And actually, I saw that firsthand, because when they would lose all of this, they would still be there. And I had to learn how to connect with them without a voice, without eyesight sometimes, without ability, even to move. I mean, I would try to have them write sometimes, but sometimes it really had to be another way that I figured out what their needs were. So this went on, and I went into other types of nursing, with women, women's health, labor and delivery, high risk, and Washington, D.C., of all places, emergency room. I did it all. But in the whole process, I was becoming burnt out. And nobody tells you to take care of yourself, right? You're just, oh, I'm experiencing this, trying to help everybody. In the meantime, myself, I was kind of lost. And I was married and had 2 kids, and they were exhausted. Not that I mean, I love them. I have 3 now, and they're all grown up. But the medical system, they had challenges, both of them. The first one had physical challenges with this immune system. The second, she just was like one of these light workers that didn't want to be incarnated. She was falling all the time. And so I was having issues with both of them early on. And in the middle of all this, my husband was not happy with his job. And we were living in Washington, D.C. And he said, do you mind? We have to move. And it was a decision to move to New York or a decision to move to Europe because he's from Amsterdam, the Netherlands. And I wanted to move to New York because I wanted to go to graduate school and I had all these great ideas. And when I went in and I felt it got really heavy in New York, this was 1996. And ironically, I write this in the book, he was going to be in one of the towers in the 77th floor. So that's so interesting, right? So we moved to Holland, and my mother-in-law, who had a friend who was a kinesiologist, lived next to her. And I was very fearful of my kids' problems. And it was really ridiculously out of control. And so my mother-in-law at one point said, Kathleen, you need to go to this lady because this is like, maybe she can help you because this is so much fear. So I went to her and the lady helped me. And I write this all in my book. And at one point she said to me, she's checking other lives and she's checking other things. And she said, this that you have is not from you. You've inherited it from a great, great, great grandmother on my mother's side. You don't talk to your parents about their grandparents. At least I didn't at that point. And she said, this particular woman has lost 12 of 14 children. She asked the body and it told her that. And I had never heard this story. And I thought 12 or 14 children, that's crazy. But the weirdest thing is she did a lot of things with me and a release of these fears. And I always say when we have these fears that are so intense, like traumas, it's like we write in a pen and then we erase it every day a bit. So we have to be patient because it's like a process to totally release our fears because they're very deep in us. So I immediately called my grandmother, of course. She was still alive. Now she's on the other side. And I was like, Mimi, we called her, can you tell me about your mother's mother? Like your grandma. And she was like, oh, Mama Alice. And she started talking about her. And then she said she had lost a lot of children. And then it was the exact amount. And it was in a plague, like a smallpox thing. And they all died like right at once, her whole family. And then she had to get over that. And then she became a suffragette. She led the movement in America with a lot of women in the Midwest and started an organization that in those days, women couldn't have an organization. So she started the order with other women, the Order of the Maccabee, one of the first societies for women. And I mean, I didn't know any of this. I started doing research on her and I realized, and I write this in the book, now we inherit from all sides, all different things, but where the problems are is our work. So I did not seem to inherit from my dad any issues like that. It always went back to that line of my mother. And I had to clear it for the whole line. And so, I mean, I could go on and on about it, but that whole line died of lung problems, and lungs are related to sadness. And so I started my whole quest, I started to understand that we can do a lot for our wellness. We can change our reality, actually. And we have to understand that we're multidimensional to do that. We can't do it with the same thoughts and the same reprogramming we used to have. So my awakening, you could say, and that was a while ago, has taught me why I'm here and that there's no accident and that I have a choice and that I have to work on these things and I'm in service to humanity. And I feel that deeply. But I don't feel it like I have to. I feel it like a joy.
Yes, very interesting. I like that you really had that experience of clearing the ancestral line because that is so much at the core of some of those DNA things that we carry with us that are
Mm.
energetically embedded in our physical being or maybe even our spiritual being that we don't realize we're carrying through, and that it's not even there's no fault, but it's not certainly not ours. It's something that is just, I think embedded is the best way to explain it, but it is our duty to recognize it and to clear it.
Yeah,
And that,
so
yeah,
all
I
right.
think that's part of our path.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that like the epigenetics is showing us truly that we have blue eyes, or we have brown eyes, or we have red hair, or that's genetics. But there's also another layer that we don't understand, and that's that all emotions and storylines, everything that we've experienced goes on the DNA that's not resolved, because everything seeks resolution, all energetic imbalances. So if you inherit something, you know how you say, oh, Johnny does that like grandfather. It can be a good thing. It can be like, wow, look at how he's so confident like grandfather. He speaks like grandfather. But we don't ever think about that. But we inherit all those things. So also the positive, but it's the negative that are holding us back. And we have to also start to recognize the positive. I work with so many people in healing, and they just don't realize how amazing they are. They're so focused on what what they don't like about themselves or what somebody told them. And this is the thing, this just travels through that DNA. So epigenetics is, the word epi means above genetics, and it's showing us that we are able through our thoughts, by changing our thoughts, by shifting our emotional baggage, all the things in the life and the storylines that I was talking about, we are able to change our DNA. And that we never understood. And many people would still say, oh, no, that's not true. But I've seen it, I've experienced it, and it's exciting. It's so exciting.
That is, I mean, that's fabulous news, right? Because it means that we're not saddled with our DNA. And so many times in traditional medicine, we're told, well, what you're made of is what you're made of. That's how you're put together, and you just have to deal with it. You have to put your band-aids on it and take your medications and just accept your fate of your DNA, right? Versus the complete opposite, which is that can be changed, not just in the next generation, but in your current existence, and that you have the power to do so. I mean, that's really powerful stuff.
It's exciting. It's hopeful. So many people are not having hope right now. We have a lot of reasons to be hopeful, but there's so much chaos that we can't see beyond the chaos at this point. So we have to go. I think it's really good. I always say to everybody, go to your heart right now and just be a lot more, be a lot more, think a lot less. It's helpful.
Oh, that's so hard to do, though,
I
especially when you're an analytical person
know. Oh,
to not,
yes. I know. I know that.
yes.
But
So
yeah,
in terms, yeah, in terms of manifesting, we hear a lot about manifestation in the New Age space, but there is a lot of confusion, I think, in terms of how much we can will things and how much we can affect things in our thoughts, which we might not be purposely willing. So, what I mean by that is, if we're thinking that something negative is going to happen and we're dwelling on that, we're affecting that reality and we don't realize it, but we can't stop negatively projecting. And I think that's most people's default.
yeah, I'll address that. I think it's, first of all, I called it Your Creator Matrix because that we have to all accept that we are made of different dimensions. We're not just physical. What we see with our eyes is only, it's not even who we are. So we have to all agree on that. And that's already a conversation. But if we look further at how we're going to manifest or use this vehicle, which I call your creator matrix, because you create with this whole being. You're not just creating with your thoughts, by the way, you're creating with a lot of parts of you, all parts of us, the body, the mind, which are your thoughts, your emotions, and your spiritual part all have to be in alignment for you to manifest. And we have been so disconnected from each part of those. So if you're listening to this, think about yourself. Which part of those, we all favor one, you've been developing maybe. Maybe you've been really working on your body and you want to feel better. So you're working on your nutrition, or maybe you're very spiritual. So you're meditating all the time. Or maybe you're an emotional therapist. So your whole life you worked on how to help people with their emotions and how to transcend the lower frequency ones. The thing is, we're asked now to look at all aspects. And in order to manifest, all aspects have to be in alignment and vibrating at a high level. So if you think a thought, and yet in the subconscious, because our subconscious is powerful, we are only having a lot of emotional baggage that has not been cleared. We're not going to manifest. And if we are very emotional clear, but we still hold ourselves to very limited beliefs, what is possible, we're not going to manifest. If we spiritually are not connected, we're not going to manifest. If we are not grounded, we're not going to manifest. So it's not so simple as just, oh, the law of attraction, oh, let's do that. Well, you can't attract something when you're not it. So every part of us must be vibrating at that high level in order to become it. So actually, the work we have to do is to focus on clearing right now, cleaning up things that are not in alignment with our true self. The other work is to connect ourselves to our whole. Many of us don't even understand that they have a spiritual, that they are an energetic field having a temporary human experience. And that is already a big thing to understand that. And when you start to understand that, and we can call that whatever we're connected to, God or whatever we want, it doesn't matter, but we are it. We are all connected. And that's also crazy. That's what quantum physics shows us, that we're actually all connected. So we have a feeling in this body that we're separate and that we're just separate beings, but that's already that thought disconnecting us, you see. Because if God is up there and we're out here and we have to like be something else, we're not connected already by that thought. So a lot of our thoughts about who we are already in a disconnected state, is what I'm saying. So we all have a lot of work to do to reconnect ourselves, all those levels, so that we can become the greatest versions of ourselves. But I believe we are doing that right now. Like we are going there. But people are like, oh, but the world's horrible. The world, it seems it right now. But there's a mission, I guess, to the madness. That's what I always say. Try to stay hopeful, because I believe in the end, we're going to be much more connected and we're going to be more powerful.
Yes. And so many people don't realize that we are spirit first and human second. And like you said, that's the first layer of education. That's the first thing that you have to understand in order to get any of this. And that our physical self and our existence here and everything we think that our life is an illusion. And that's really the theme of my second book, is really just that. And that's where the mirror metaphor comes in, because it's all just an illusion that we have to see through in order to attain that higher level of spiritual intelligence, in order to embrace the universality of our existence, to know that we are part of this larger thing and that we are all connected. And not only are we not alone in that, but we have a duty in that.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. Thank you, Megan. I love how you just said that. Yeah, it's very important for us to make that jump, like a quantum jump in our understanding. But we have to be patient, because we have a whole world, and the whole world, everyone's not on the same consciousness level. And we expect that everyone gets it, but that's not okay, because we have to be much more patient and go to our heart and be loving of everyone's journey. So each journey is sacred. And if you haven't understood that, that's okay. I have people who are just really busy with their body, and that's good. Like, that's also good. That's a body, that's a temple of your soul. That's you come and you incarnate in this body. It's meant to be taken care of. So I already think it's amazing, like almost an amazing step when people start to do that. Because in my work as a nurse, I saw people so unconscious that they didn't take care of any aspect of themselves. They just lived their life kind of unconsciously. And that's how it was when I was young, by the way, because there was not so much light on the planet. It was much darker and denser. And so people were just very asleep. So I really have compassion for all of humanity. And wherever you are, it's okay. That's where you're meant to be. We're all going to
That's
get
a,
there.
yeah, that's important. It's important to point out because I even fall into that perception where it's like, come on, how come you don't realize this? And then I'm disappointed and upset when people don't get it because I get it. It's a difficult but necessary lesson to recognize that not everyone is supposed to get it or is going to get it when you're delivering it. But that you're put there to deliver it because there is someone who does get it and they need you to be there to say it.
Yeah. So when I was looking at the reviews of my book, so there was one lady that said, I'm sure this is really important, but I just don't understand it. And I love that she was honest. It's okay.
Yes, yes. And I've had similar experiences where I've had some people kind of be really negative because they don't get it, and then others say, you know, this is just a little bit more complex than I thought it was going to be, and maybe it's not for me, but I appreciate that it's so unique. And it's like, thank you. Okay.
So I think just to accept that is the best thing. And
Yeah.
also not to have expectations. So when I look at, I think one of our big problems right now on the planet is that everyone's expecting something and has certain belief systems and they want to be right and are right
Yeah.
about something. And I think they just want to be seen. So the truth is, for me, it's a sign that we have a lot of healing work to do because people need these injuries for eons not being seen, heard, and loved themselves. They didn't know. So that's the work, in my opinion. And I think many of us are here to help people one on one to do that work.
Yes. And I think that's one of the values of dream work for me is that it puts that agency in each person's hand to really access the parts of themselves that they've been disconnected from and to say, look, you don't have to go outside of yourself to get these answers. They actually lie within you. You just have to create the space and take the effort and the time to listen.
And listening is not easy. I train health coaches, so at a high level. So that's the biggest thing that a lot of us have never been listened to. So we don't even know how to listen. It's difficult. You know, if your basic needs as a human being are that you have not been listened to or seen, then it's very hard for you to do that. So we have to heal that in ourselves. And I think that's a big job. But I do believe that many are healing and the healing is going faster right now.
Now, you had mentioned that
Oh,
you
dream work.
had a dream experience that
Yeah,
you'd
you bet.
like to share. Yes.
I was laughing because we had talked about that. Yeah, so dreams are powerful because, well, one thing I can say as a nurse, that when I used to work the night shift, at that time, the veil between this universal field and us is very thin. So during the night in the dreams, we are much more connected and we can get a lot of information and symbols and things can happen in those dreams. And they're there to teach us and show us something. And I have been working as a nurse. So a lot of times what I saw is people would die a lot at that in those hours because it was easier to leave. That veil was thinner. And I also saw funny things. Like I had a patient who he was so funny. He was older and he was always near death, but he didn't have a DNR, which means we had to resuscitate him. But he loved attention. So he would hold his breath at our change of shift at 7 in the morning all the time because he wanted us to give him attention by resuscitating him. So it was such a funny thing. And so we did that, I think, 20 times. He loved us. It was really love. He wanted all of our attention. And during the codes, he got all of our attention. But then one day, of course, he just left. But that's one thing that I do know, that veil is thinner. What I experience, I have dreams all the time. They have guided me. But one, when my mother died, and that's to lose your mother is one of those things. It's like, wow, that happened. And I remember the morning she was leaving because I felt my umbilical cord like a cut, like she was going to leave me on this planet. And my sister and I are very close. Our family is very close, but my sister and I are next to each other, and we had the same dream the same night where we visited her in her hospital room. So we both had the same dream. And the thing is, she was in the hospital room, but she wasn't sick. And we both had that same dream. And she was just like that. And I was like, wow, that's so incredible. And I also had another one where a teacher of mine that I talk about in the book, who's the kinesiologist, died. And she was my teacher for 20 some years. I learned so much from her about healing, everything, life. She was like a mother to me. And she died suddenly. And I was so sad. I missed her so much. And one day she came in the dream. And I never did exactly what she did, but she used to say, I can't stay, but I'm giving you all when she was alive, I'm giving you a lot of knowledge and you're going to stay and you're going to bring the new earth in. And this is for you, these things. And that's what she said when she was here. But in the dream, she did not say it. She was standing there smiling in her home that I always visit her in. And then she had a baton and she said, open your hands, or it just communicated telepathically. I opened my hand and she handed me the baton. And it was sort of like, now it's your time, but I'll always be with you. That was so cool. So then I was not so sad. So that was a dream that was very important to me. But I've had so many. So I think the more conscious you are, the more you start to realize your dreams. And also, I would get woken up when I was writing the book. I talk about that in the book too, that I was woken up with information to connect body, mind, spirit. And if I didn't write it right then, and the problem was it was kind of painful because 3 in the morning, you don't want to write it. You're so tired. But I would learn to write it or I would forget it. Seriously. It
Oh,
was,
absolutely.
yeah. So
Yes,
the,
if you don't write it down within the first 5 minutes, you'll forget 50% of it. And I mean within a few minutes after that is completely gone, unless you train yourself to remember it. And I do the same thing. I write in the dark without turning the light on or without looking. And it makes for really messy writing, but I've trained myself to just write, take big spaces and write really big so that eventually I can look back and capture it. But yeah, so much information comes from the dreams and in that space in between sleeping and waking, just get all kinds of information in there. And I feel like that's really, like you said, not only where it's thinnest, but where we're most open to receiving that information because we don't have the judgment brain turned on. So we're just in the receiving brain mode. And it's really because of the brainwave states, but it allows us to really be vessels for that information without rejecting it instantly, like the waking mind would.
yeah, it's so true. And it's also right now with all the light coming in, with all the solar flares, with all the changes on the planet, many people are not sleeping very well. And many are being woken up in the middle of the night. And as long as you know that's part of the awakening, you can accept it. But it's different because we were used to sleeping all night and we thought we had to. And I even teach as a whole health coach how important sleep is. But it's just right now, it's just such a change and everything's shifting in us. So that space is so vital for our development and our awakening.
Yes. Yes, there is a lot happening celestially, and I keep track of it. I have an Aurora app, and I'm constantly tracking the geomagnetic and the solar flares. And this year, I mean, obviously, we're in a peak of the solar cycle, so it's going to be happening for the next couple years. But the flares have been exceptionally strong in
Oh,
just this last couple months. I actually saw the aurora for the first time in May of this year, which was a just out of body experience, and I can't wait for it to happen again. So yes, I mean, there's a lot going on. And it's exciting. It's a trying time, but it's a time of change that I think, like you said, is really leading us in a positive direction.
yeah. We just have to be sticking together. we have to work, and we're going to go into that age of Aquarius soon really strongly. And that's the time of connecting with like-minded people, groups, and more people will learn that they are connected and they aren't separate. And it's nice to work together. And we can do it in a very loving way, not maybe the old ways where there's someone telling everybody what to do. That's outdated, right? So we're going to work more feminine, I would say.
Yes. And that's the whole reason that this podcast was started, was really to create that space and to allow people all over the world to hear these conversations to help them on their journey. So
Um,
tell everyone where they can get your book, where they can find you.
sure. This is my book, Your Creator Matrix. Oh, goodness, you can see it. You said to put it in front of me. There we go. And
Yep.
my sister did 13 beautiful portraits, which are magic realism. And every portrait has a book, which is about being the creator and taking responsibility for your life on all of those dimensions. So I think the pictures give a lot of light and hope to people who read it, and they can always get them. They're amazing. But the book is on Amazon. You can order it. It's also obviously book reads, and you can find it about it on book reads and all of the places that are normal. I'm in Europe, so we have Amazon.nl and we have Amazon.com. And yeah, so they're a bit different, but if you live in Europe and you're listening to this, you get it through Amazon.nl and Amazon.com in the United States and that area.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will put the link in the show notes as well. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you so much for being here, Kathleen. I really enjoy our conversation. And yes, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Megan. Lovely to be.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? You can now send me a text message and share your experience. Be sure to subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button as well to be part of my growing community. Are you ready to take the next step in your spiritual journey? Don't miss out on the new Dream Empowerment programs. Unique opportunities for you to unlock your inner wisdom, discover your authenticity, align with your higher self, and bring abundance into your life. If you'd like your dream or awakening story featured on my show, submit it today. Your dreams have the power to inspire and enlighten other women on their journey. Visit meganmary.com to find out more.